Good morning, y'all. It is time to get this Enfield reassembled and back to the customer. So we're going to put it back together, test fire it, and we'll be good to go. So we've got all our parts here, and we'll get right into it. So first I'm going to put this magazine back together. That's fairly easy. Just gonna slip that spring, get it down in there, just like that. So we can set that aside. It's ready to go. Now, I like to start off with putting my metal parts back on my wood. Keep a rag handy. Wipe the excess oil off of these parts as you assemble them. Got plenty of oil on them from the last video where we did the metal parts. And you want to make sure that you always use a screwdriver that fits the hardware correctly. Get you one of these bit sets or a set of screwdrivers. You don't want to, generally the automotive type screwdrivers don't fit all that well, so you don't necessarily want to use those. You definitely want screwdrivers that fit, because what you don't want is to turn out of these holes and damage your hardware. Some of these will get rather German-like on the way in, good and tight, and so you'll be glad that you've got a good fitting screwdriver when you're going in with them. Other thing to remember is you don't have to torque the ever-living crap out of these screws. As long as they're tight, that's going to be good enough. Sometimes going back in this wood, you'll find one that just... There we go. Alright, so we got our sling swivel back on. Now I'm not going to put the butt plate back on until after I've attached this back to the metal, because we've got the long bolt that goes through the stock. Now on this long part, set this off to the side for now. Got a couple of pieces that go back on this. We've got this, which is what's left of the original volley sight. Now the volley sights on these a lot of times were removed whenever the gun was refurbished. So not all of it is there, just this small plate which sticks in its corresponding hole here. And it's got a locating pin, so you can't really mess it up. Stick the screw through and tighten it down. That takes care of that. So we've got this piece, which goes here, and it's got a barrel in there. I already stuck it in the hole earlier to make sure it fit. So that goes in like that, and then it's got a screw that goes in there, and we need to get the right bit for that. We got to watch out for is this is going to start spinning that other piece in there. This takes 2 screwdrivers, flatheads, because there's a flathead on each side, which can be kind of a pain because it'll start trying to spin, and holding 2 flatheads in their holes can be kind of a pain in the behind. So we get these in their slots here. There we go. Perfect. All right. So those parts are on. Rag here. One of these days I'm going to clean off the other half of this bench so I don't have to move stuff around all the time, but that day is not today. Okay. Yeah. All right. So let's move this wood out of the way for a minute. And we're going to move this. And you'll see I've got my book here as a reference. Most of this I can remember, but sometimes it's always good if you don't have a book, take pictures or what have you, just to make sure you're going back the right way with all of this stuff. So now we're going to reassemble this sear and its spring and such. So first thing, we got to put this piece in, and it goes like that. And this pin goes one direction. So we've got to get this all lined up. Jiggle it around and all that good stuff until the pin goes in. There we go. Alright, so that's in there. It just pushes in, you don't have to pound it. Okay, this is your sear. Long end goes up, and it goes up in here, and it has this pin which goes through it. We'll get that in there, and we'll start that screw in like that, and then we've got to get this spring back in place. So it goes, the long end goes on this, and the short end goes on the sear. And what we're going to do is take our pair of needle nose pliers here, and squeeze it together and get it in its two slots, which you'll know they've got there's a it's kind of a pain, but you'll know it when you get it in the right place. You've got a little cutout up here for the spring to sit in, and you've got to squeeze it enough to get it in there. And it'll look like this when you're done. So there's a little slot there that the spring fits into. Can't miss it. So once it's in there, then you can see you got spring action on your sear. Once that's all in there, then you can go ahead and tighten up the little screw that holds all that together. There we go. So that's back together. Now we can go ahead and drop this thing in our stock. So we'll get our stock. Here. I think what we'll do is go ahead and put the butt stock on. You got your big old screwdriver. And your butt stock is going to fit in here like so. And then you've got your big long bolt that goes in this hole. Drop it down in there. And then you'll have to wiggle it around and turn it some. There we go. Get it to go down in there, and then start it into the receiver. There we go. Now it's down in there. Now, you don't need to torque the ever-loving crap out of that. So that's on nice and tight. Now we can put our butt stock back on. Brass piece here. It only fits on one way, and it's got two screws that hold it in. And again, you need to make sure you get the right bit for them. So we'll start those in their holes. Run them down in. Now, a lot of these screws have a lot of, like these here, have a lot of wear on them, and that makes the slot very thin, very short, not deep. But so you got to be careful. But here, now we got our buttstock on. Can lay this back up here. So we've got our wood stock here. We got a couple of pieces we need to put together on here. You got this plunger with the spring that goes in this hole right here, and it's got a slot in it that needs to face kind of front to back, like so. And that should be about what we've got to put in here. So now this piece here that's loose on the barrel sits in this slot right here in the stock. So you got to make sure that when you put this on that you get that in that hole. So if you start at the back end and kind of, you got to wiggle it up around that sear there. Get it kind of up in there, and then you got to make sure you get this part here in its spot. There we go. Just like that. Excellent. All right. So now that that's in there, we can go ahead and put our screw in this piece. That's going to be this screw right here. It's got a metal sleeve in there. So we'll slide that in there. And see if we can't get that started. There we go. Run that up in there. So that's there. Looking good so far. Looking good so far. Okay, so now we've got that. I need to put this goes back here, and it just clips on. Now this has got two clips here, and then if you look, there's corresponding cutouts right here for those clips to sit down in. So, and you want to be very careful with this because it's fragile. But you want to make sure those are, everything's lined up, and then that just pops on there like that, and it's spring clipped on. So you don't have to really mess with it too much. All right. So that's on. Roll this over. We're going to put the trigger and trigger guard on. Now you'll see right here the sear, you'll see where your sear is hanging, and this trigger has got to go in front of it. Well, it actually would be behind it according to the rifle. That's got to go in there, and then all this has got to go down on here, and it'll take some jiggling and wiggling to get it on the do-right program. I got the front part in, but the back does not want to go over. What am I hitting here? Glasses. Got to be able to see. Okay. There we go. Okay. So that fits like that, but we've got to get it down so this cross bolt will go through, and I'm not seeing what it is that's holding me, but there we go. Rawhide won't scar it up. All right, so that's in. Now we got a cross pin that goes in right here, and that is a teeny tiny little screw that I need to get a bit for. And again, can't have enough different screwdrivers so you can get one that fits. So you get this cross screw in here. I just had it in there. There we go. We just want to start it. Don't want to tighten anything yet. We've got to get this front screw in here. It's going to be that long one. Go ahead and tighten that, and then we'll tighten our little cross screw, and it is, there we go. We'll make sure that our sear is dropping when we pull the trigger, and it is. Excellent. Excellent, excellent. Okay. So now, wipe our hands off. We're going to need our last piece of wood, which goes on the top, like so. And then we're going to need to slide our hand guard on, or our, I'm sorry, not hand guard, the barrel band. Now you'll see that this hand guard has a cutout in the top, and that is so that the hinge of the barrel band can go down in it. So we'll put that on, take the barrel band and drop it on, like so. And then you've got this piece and this screw. So this only goes together one way. Put your screw through that piece, and then you've got to get it started in the other side there. And because these are at an angle, you've got to be careful not to get that cross threaded, so don't quite have them squeezed together enough, which is flip it around and see if it fits better the other direction. Doesn't look like it, but okay, so yeah, it goes this way. Take some soft jaws and maybe give it a little squeeze. There we go. That's looking good. Put your screw through. Get it started. Oh yeah, there we go. Now it's lined up. And you tighten that down. Now, one thing to remember when you tighten this down, you want to tighten it down, but if it starts, if you get it too tight, it will jam this, and you don't want that. So alright, so once that's on, what we're left with is the nose cap. So we need to wipe this down because it's got quite a bit of oil still on the, we don't want all of that inside of there, soaking into our newly cleaned wood. So we just wipe off all the excess oil. There we go. So this now, you've got the spring here that this is going to push up on. That's that plunger that we put back inside there. So when we slide this on, you're going to have to squeeze everything together to get this to go on right. And it's going to be tight. And you may have to use your rawhide and give it a little tap. Just a little. So once that's on, you've got your two screws here. One goes here, and get that started in its hole. tighten it all the way down yet. Always get all your screws started before you tighten them down too much. And we got this big one, and we need the big wide bit for that. So drop that there. Run it down tight, and then roll this up and finish tightening this. Wipe all this down one last time. Set it to the side, and we'll get this bolt put back together. Which is our last little step here. So your firing pin spring goes on the bolt like so, or the firing pin spring goes on the firing pin. I'm sorry. Wipe off our excess oil here. So you've got your cocking piece, which is going to be sitting like that. You need to put your bolt in. And this is where it gets fun. So you've got your cutouts. You got your little tab on the cocking piece that fits in those cutouts. And you want to hold this on here like so, lining up the hole in it with the hole here. And you're going to kind of hold that, and then you're going to take your tool and put it on the firing pin. And you've got to push that back up in there and kind of thread it into the cocking piece. And you look at the back of the cocking piece, and you can see the little cutout. Hold on, let me get this where y'all can see what I'm talking about. Alright. Got a little cutout, half moon, right there. Got the little half moon cutout, so you need to turn the firing pin. And what you want to do is basically get the firing pin flush with the back of the cocking piece and get that half moon cutout lined up with the hole there, so that your locking screw can thread down in there. So that prevents the firing pin from unscrewing. Now you can take your tool off because you've got it captured. Oh. Never enough room, no matter what you do. Alright, so we once again get the proper sized bit. And you don't have to torque. None of these have to have the ever-loving crap torqued out of them. Remember, somebody might have to take this apart again someday. Might be you. Alright, so once you got that, then you just take your bolt head and screw it back in like so. And it'll line up like that, and then you can take your caulking piece and move it back to the slightly tensioned slot. And we're going to take our bolt slide it in here. Got to, oh yeah, push it down over that spring. Oh yeah. Alright. Put your magazine back on. And that is it. You can wipe all our handprints and such off. And that is one clean Enfield 303 #1 Mark III star. Wipe it all down. All right. Now we'll grab a couple of rounds 303 and take this out back and test fire it. So let me do that, and I'll be right back with you. All right. So we've got in my pocket here, I've got 3 rounds of 303 British. We'll load those in the gun. And give it a test fire. There. So our brass looks good. Don't see any deformities in the chamber. So I would call that a success. And that's a beautiful rifle. And I'm sure the owner will be quite happy with it. So, appreciate y'all watching. Hopefully some of this helped you out. I'm trying to get better at filming, and hopefully things will improve, and everything will keep going great. So y'all have a good one. We'll see you in the next video.